Can you really use ChatGPT to prepare your Australian tax return? Well, as an accountant, I'm skeptical. Today we're going to answer some common tax questions and really test what AI can do right now. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn about taxes like you've never learned before. Let's get started by accessing ChatGPT. Click on the Start Chatting button on GPT website and let's begin. So I'm going to type in here, how do I claim deductions for my home office? Now let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Okay, so this answer appears to relate to the US and I'm in Australia. See here, it's mentioning the IRS, which is a US tax authority. I guess you can say my question was not specific enough and it was my fault. I first assumed it wouldn't understand that I'm in Australia by default based on my login details. I would say that this is not correct overall. Now let's ask, what about in Australia? Okay, so this answer in Australia is more specific and looks okay if you're preparing your 2022 tax return. However, I noticed the fixed rate method is mentioning 52 cents, but it is now 67 cents per hour for 1 July 2022. So it's not really up to date. Again, I did not mention what tax year I wanted to claim in, so I'll be more specific this time and ask what rate applies for the 2023 tax return in Australia. Okay, it's doubled down on answering 52 cents, but generally adds tax rates change from time to time. A quick Google search on the ATO website confirms the fixed rate has increased to 67 cents per hour, so I have to say this answer is wrong and out of date. Now let's ask a fun question. Can I claim my pet as a dependent on my tax return? Yep, that's right, you can't. And then it goes off in a different direction by mentioning tax deductions that would really apply to some people, but not for many people. I'll give this a tick as correct, although it does go into a bit more detail for a simple question, and it could mislead people into thinking they could claim a pet in some circumstances, which for most people you can't. Okay, so here's a question I get asked a lot. Can I deduct the cost of my morning coffee as a business expense in Australia? Okay, that is an okay answer and considers the business versus personal aspects that may not apply. For an average taxpayer, the answer is a simple no, and for a business expense, it basically says maybe, without going into too much detail. This answer would probably confuse the audience that typically ask this type of question, which are mostly individual taxpayers, while not giving enough detail for business people. I would probably say it is accurate, but needs to be clearer. Maybe my question wasn't clear enough again, but AI is supposed to replace accountants, right? So I'm going to be a hard marker and say no, it's wrong. Okay, here's another common question. Can I claim travel between home and work in Australia? Okay, this is a good response and basically says no with some specific examples of when it is business use or tax deductible, which I would generally agree with. So I'll give this a tick as a good response overall. Okay, so now I'm going to ask where I can claim this deduction on my tax return. So this answer is pretty average and not very specific. I'll try to make the question more specific and ask what section of the tax return and label number do I claim for business travel? Okay, this is a slightly better response and gives some label numbers, although it gives a few label numbers to choose from. This is a trick question though, as I was not specific of whether I meant travel with my car or travel on a plane. And also, I didn't mention if I was a sole trader or an employee, which would result in different sections of the tax return needing to be filled in. I'll rate this answer an okay, but could be better and requires more detailed questions. Okay, now, how do I know if I need to pay the Medicare levy? Yes, this is an okay response and has dated the threshold amount that is given, but is a bit general to some of the exemptions that may apply. I could ask further questions to get more specific responses, but I've seen enough. You really need to know what you're asking for to get the answer that you want. But what if I wanted the question answered in a foreign language? Can you explain this in Hindu? That seems a bit short. And I don't speak Hindu, so I'll have to ask my Hindu-speaking audience to comment on how well it did. What about Mandarin? Okay, that was much longer and I can see some symbols I recognize in English. Again, I don't speak Mandarin, so I'll need to ask my Mandarin speaking audience how it went in the comments section. And now the question we all want to ask at tax time: how can I avoid paying tax in Australia? Okay, so AI has a code of ethics and will not answer this question on principle. Interesting. I think this is a lazy answer and a legitimate question that can be answered without breaking any laws or ethics or morals. However, based on the responses I've seen today, if ChatGPT could answer this question, I don't think it would have been sophisticated enough to evade the ATO anyway if it was unethically intended. In my opinion, it is a lazy and safe answer based on an assumption that I had unethical motives. I will say it is correct based on its programming to do no harm and answered it correctly on the assumption that it was unethically intended. AI is catching up with answering basic tax questions, although it is still no replacement for checking the help button on My Tax or getting professional tax advice from a registered tax agent. It won't be long until AI is preparing a tax return for you, but it's still a fair way off for now. If you want to learn more about tax in Australia, then check out one of the videos on the screen right now that YouTube has recommended for you. Please also remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed watching this video to support my channel. Thanks so much.